Hello everyone. First off, I would like to welcome our customers and partners to our webinar on the Australian Cybersecurity Centre's Essential 8. The purpose of this webinar is to inform and educate the management teams and business decision makers on the new government guidelines on cybersecurity. This is a non-technical webinar, so if you are attending and you're not an IT tech, don't worry, we'll try and not bore you to death. I'll start by just doing a quick run through of the agenda. So after this introduction, we will tell you what the Essential 8 is. We'll tell you why we think they're important to your business. We'll then touch on the maturity levels, which are important to Essential 8. And then we'll spend a lot of time running through what each of the Essential 8 strategies are. And we'll quickly finish up with some next steps where you can take it from there. Now, I'm sure I would have spoken to most of you over the years. And if not, you would have met or know some of our team. But I will start with a quick introduction about alltasksIT and a bit about myself. alltasksIT have been operating for over 20 years, and we are a long-term Microsoft Gold partner, along with being a top-tier partner with all the global leading security vendors. Alongside our traditional work of supporting your IT and cloud infrastructures, we're fast becoming leaders in small to medium business cybersecurity. And by supporting so many small to medium Australian businesses, we're able to understand and mitigate the cybersecurity threats that you face on a day-to-day basis. Our dedicated team takes cybersecurity very seriously, and it's always at the forefront of our minds when we're supporting and designing solutions for you. Righto, on to a quick bit about myself. My name is Kevin Carne, and I'm the product manager here at alltasksIT. I have a real passion for helping businesses create modern workplaces with technology. I want them to work better than before, anywhere, on any device at any time. And a lot of my day-to-day work is helping small to medium businesses get to the cloud, and more importantly, all whilst being very secure. Okay, so now the intro's out the way, why are we all here? It's estimated that cybercrime will cost global businesses $6 trillion by 2021. Now that's more wealth transfer than the trade of all major legal drugs combined. Attacks that you think only happen to large global businesses are happening to small and medium Australian businesses, as they are often seen as weaker targets. And this is happening at a rate that is out of control. We have personally seen dozens of successful attacks over the last 24 months, ranging from businesses being held to financial ransom in order to get their shared drive files back, all the way to their employees transferring $200,000 to scammers that they were not able to claim back from their bank. On the other end of the scale, the large transport company Toll Group had to shut down most of its IT infrastructure in the last month due to a ransomware attack, which is going to cost them millions of dollars to recover from. We'll go into a little more detail later on and give you some examples of attacks and their implications. But if there's one thing I can get you to take away from this webinar, it's I can't stress to you enough how important cybersecurity is now, and the frequency that the attacks are happening at. So what can Australian businesses do to protect themselves? Well, the government have released new cybersecurity guidelines called the Essential 8, and that's what we're here to talk to you about today. Keep in mind the Essential 8 isn't the be and end all of IT security, but it's a very good baseline to start from. What is the Essential 8? The Australian Cybersecurity Centre, also known as the ACSC, is a government organisation that's purpose is to defend Australia from global cybersecurity threats. The ACSC has outlined 8 essential strategies that can help you defend up to 85% of targeted attacks, and these are known as the Essential 8. When it comes to IT security, you need a multi-layered approach. And although no one can guarantee against getting attacked, the Essential 8 is a fantastic starting point for businesses to address their security needs. To complicate things a little bit, there's a maturity scale, which we'll go into a little bit later on. The thing you need to keep in mind is the level of maturity you implement the Essential 8 to is customized for your organization's risk profile. And our vision here at alltasksIT is in line with the ACSC's, and we want to help all of our customers achieve a minimum of a baseline level within the next 2 years. In order to get to this baseline, you need to start your journey now by planning and implementing these Essential 8. Why is the Essential 8 important to you? It applies to small businesses, it applies to big businesses, and whether you have 5 staff or 5,000 staff, this affects you. There's a huge increase on attacks to small and medium businesses, especially within the last 24 months. When I talk about an attack, I mean either a hacker stealing or selling your information, holding you to ransom by locking your files, impersonating you by asking your finance team or your suppliers to pay your invoices, and that's just a tip of the iceberg. And we'll jump into some real life scenarios next so you can get a better picture of what we're seeing. These kind of attacks used to be common in large businesses, but it's starting to get very close to home. I'm seeing compromises and attacks almost weekly now with businesses that we know, and even some of my family businesses have been recently affected. Of course, with cybersecurity, there are some financial implications. Cybercrime is costing the Australian economy over $1 billion a year, and we personally have had a few clients lose money ranging from $2,000 all the way up to $200,000. You even need to think about your reputation. A recent statistic states that 74% of people say they would leave a supplier if their data was breached. So let's take a stolen password, for example, which is a very common scenario now. A hacker will take your email login and spam emails out to everyone you have ever sent an email to. Then all of your key contacts and suppliers will receive this fraud email. Even worse than that, the email may contain a ransomware virus which they can potentially fall for too. And the root cause of the virus will get traced back to you. Your business's email domain name can then end up on a blacklist. Now, I have personally worked with businesses that have been on blacklists, and it can take up to 7 days to get them off of them. Now, this leaves your business unable to send emails for up to 7 days to all of your key customers and contacts. Now, as you can understand, this might break the trust between you and your contacts, and it can be pretty damaging to your business's reputation. Our last point is business insurance. When helping our customers fill out their cybersecurity insurance applications, we're increasingly seeing more and more questions about which security measures they have in place, like multi-factor authentication and application whitelisting. We know insurance companies favor businesses that have these controls in place, and when it comes to the cost of their cybersecurity premiums, the more you have in place, usually the lower your premiums are. We also know that businesses that have made cybersecurity claims due to a breach often see a higher rise in premiums when they are renewing or reapplying. Now, with cyber insurance premiums increasing of an average 5% last year, I think we can all agree we should do what we can to minimize the costs. Now, we can't officially advise you on your business insurances, and we recommend you speak with your broker about anything in this area. But as always, we're more than happy to do what we can for you and work with your insurance broker to answer any questions or implement any changes they may require. We made it this far, but to complicate things a little, we need to talk to you about the maturity scale. The Essential 8 uses a maturity model as a measurement baseline to compare the organization's maturity against each of the 8 controls. Level 1 being the least secure and level 3 being the best. By being level 3, you will be fully aligned with the Essential 8 strategy. We don't need to go too in depth about the levels in this presentation, but let's use backup frequency as an example to demonstrate the point. By backup frequency, I mean how many backups do you take of your important information and software settings. One of the requirements to meet level 1 is to take monthly backups. In a disaster scenario, this will leave you in a position to restore your important files and settings to within 1 month of the current date. A level 2 requirement is to take backups weekly. This will leave you in a better position, only losing 1 week's worth of work. A level 3 requirement is to take backups daily. Now, if a disaster happens, your organization is only left 1 day behind. To jump to a higher level isn't always simple and often requires you to meet multiple requirements. If you're starting from scratch, you would aim to implement level 3 from the very start. Now, with all this talk of levels, what maturity level should you aim for? As a baseline, organizations should aim to reach maturity level 3 in each mitigation strategy. We're finally here. Now we can talk about the 8 strategies outlined by the ACSC. Let's do a quick review, spending a couple of minutes on each and focus a little more time on the ones which we think are most important. Now, the Essential 8 can be broken down into 3 categories. Strategies that can prevent attacks, strategies that can limit the extent of an attack, and strategies to recover from attacks. And I want to start with multi-factor authentication, also known as MFA, then we can go through the list in order. The reason I want to start with this is we think without a doubt MFA is one of the single most important things you can implement to improve security. We have been talking about MFA for a long time now, and we feel it's something that every single business should have. MFA sits under the limit extent of attacks category, but I think it should also be listed as a preventative measure too. It not only stops hackers getting access, but it can limit the extent of an attack if by somehow an attacker can get around it. So what is MFA? MFA is a security enhancement requiring users to present two different pieces of evidence when logging into an account. Most services like online banking or accessing Medicare through the MyGov website require the same thing. They often send you a text message with a 6-digit code. However, there are a lot easier and more secure ways to do MFA. Let me use our AllTasks system as an example. If I want to log into my emails, I will get a ping on my phone and it will ask me if I want to allow the login to happen. And I've put a screenshot of exactly what this looks like up on the PowerPoint presentation. I then simply have to click approve and it will allow me to log into my emails. So why do you need it? One common scenario at the moment is phishing scams to do with iTunes purposes. People are receiving emails that look exactly the same as legitimate emails from Apple to say an app was purchased under their iTunes account. And then there's a button to click where you can review or cancel your purchase. Now, if you have kids that you share an iPad with, you probably start by cursing them and then click on the link to see what they have bought on your credit card. You are then asked to log into a fake iTunes page that looks 100% like the real one. Once you have typed in your username and passwords, the scammers then have it. Now, if you use your work account or use the same passwords for your personal services as you do for your business accounts, like most people do, the hackers now have your login. If you have multi-factor authentication, you're still protected. So if the scammer attempts to log into your webmail, they won't be able to unless they have your mobile device, even though they have your login. They need 2 factors of authentication to gain access, and in this case, they are your username, password, and acceptance from your mobile phone. Similar types of scams are going around for Office 365 confirmations to keep your account open, eBay emails, Amazon, Woolworths, and courier companies like DHL. The most common thing we hear from our customers is our staff won't want to do that every time they log in. Well, the good news is there are ways to make the experience less painful for them, like only prompts for a mobile login when you're not on a company-owned computer or device. You can also set up things like trusted locations, so only prompt when the staff member is logging in from outside of the company's office locations. We have a great and easy read article on our website which goes into a deeper dive on MFA, which we will send you the link to. Next up is application whitelisting. Application whitelisting only allows you to start an application on computers that has been reviewed and pre-approved by an IT administrator. For an example, you may want to put Microsoft Outlook, Word, and Excel on the approved list as we know they're safe to run, but everything else on the blacklist. By implementing application whitelisting, you dramatically decrease the chances of malware, ransomware, and viruses being installed on your computers and servers. As an example, if a staff member was fooled to download malware from a fake Spotify website, accidentally thinking it was a legitimate Spotify app, then they won't be able to run it on their computer. Moving on to patch applications. This seems an easy one, but it's something that most businesses don't do. It's recommended that you patch your applications. For non-technical people attending, think of patching as patching up a hole or putting a band-aid on. Patches are often released to fix security issues on a regular basis by the developers who make the software. These patches are usually band-aid fixes, and the quicker you apply the fix, the more secure you are. Now, I know most of you patch your Microsoft Office applications regularly because if you're a managed services customer, we do this for you. However, the ACSC's guidelines now state that you need to patch all third-party applications too. To give you an example of the scale of this task, most of our customers have over 100 applications running inside the network. We can use VLC Media Player for this one as a real life example to demonstrate why you need to be doing third-party patching on all your applications. VLC Media Player is a popular application as it can play pretty much any video file, and the latest version alone has been downloaded over 100 million times. Just 6 months ago, it was big news in IT that VLC Media Player had a huge security vulnerability that allowed hackers to potentially access your files and information. Now that's a bit worrying, right? And here's some of the news headlines from 6 months ago that started worrying IT staff, and especially ones in businesses that hold highly confidential information. Now, VLC released their security patch shortly after to fix this issue. And this security patch also addressed 33 other security problems at the same time. And this isn't the only example you find online. It's likely that all of you would have had software installed in the past that would have similar security holes and issues. Maybe not to this scale, but I hope it demonstrates the problems you can potentially face if you don't do your patching. We can fly through the next few in an attempt to keep boredom levels to a minimum. Next is configuring Microsoft Office macros. The ACSC's recommendation is to change the default macro settings in Microsoft Office to tighten things up. Macros are essentially bits of code embedded into Microsoft Office documents to automate tasks. They are often used in Excel to apply settings or pull in data. Now, the reason they can be a problem is hackers embed code into macros that can be dangerous, and you might get emailed an Excel document. When you open up that Excel document, you start that code and you can run into a whole heap of problems. This is usually a quick one we can get to a high level on the maturity scale. So it might be something you would think about doing at the beginning of your journey. Okay, so user application hardening can be another one which it's easy to get started with in most cases. User application hardening can mean a few different things, but with the Essential 8, they refer to blocking settings and content in your web browsers and Microsoft Office. And why is that important? Exactly as it says in the slide, Flash, ads, and Java are popular ways to deliver and execute malicious code on our systems. Okay, so patching operating systems is next on our list. I look at this as two different topics: patching your operating systems and keeping up with life cycles. First, you need to patch your operating systems. This means applying the latest patches for Windows 10, Mac operating systems, and your servers and devices like iPhones. Similar to application patching, which we spoke about earlier, the same reasons why you need to patch for your operating systems apply here too. Now, as with everything IT, there's a bit of a complication with this one. To get to level 3 with this one, the ACSC want you to patch your operating systems within 48 hours of a patch release. However, please do be careful with this guideline. With our patching process, we review them and then we push them out to test groups before we publish them to thousands of computers. The reason for this is sometimes patches can break functionality, and we test everything before it's rolled out to your production environments to reduce the risk of a patch fixing one thing but breaking something else. The second point is you need to be running supported operating systems that vendors still support and actively release patches for. A good example of this is Windows 7. Microsoft stopped the support of Windows 7 after 10 years, and therefore they are no longer going to be releasing security fixes for it. The hackers know this and they will target businesses still running Windows 7. On that note, if you're still running Windows 7, I personally think you need a bloody good reason to be. It's such a security risk and it's something that you should be attempting to replace right now. Right, we're getting close to the end, so hang in there. Restricting admin privileges is the second to last one on our list. IT best practices always have been and always will be to run at the minimum permission level that you need to. One of the reasons behind this is if your username and password is stolen and you have administrator rights to every single system, then a hacker or one of your employees then has access to everything too. A second good reason is it's often far harder for a hacker to run malicious software or code without administrator rights. You then need to look at this not only inside your network, but also with all of your other services like Office 365, web applications like accounting software, HR software, and also CRM databases. There are often strategies to manage this a bit easier from a global level with single sign-on, rather than having to maintain multiple identities across different services. Now, if you want more information on this, just reach out to your account manager to talk further. And finally, our last topic, daily backups. I have seen backups save the day countless times over the years, and I expect all of you are already taking backups of your most important data, which is fantastic. However, there are a couple of common flaws we see regularly with people's backup plans. One of them is increasingly we're seeing businesses not taking backups of their cloud services like Office 365. You need to be doing this. It's cheap, it's easy, and it is absolutely essential. I can give you many reasons and examples why, but that's a story for another day due to our time limits. Now, we're happy to discuss that further at another point, so just reach out and let us know. The second flaw we see regularly is not executing the backup plan. So you need to be doing some type of restore test as a dry run to see if you actually can recover from a disaster when the time arrives. And that's it. That was the last of the 8. I know it might be information overload, but we'll help you digest it by reaching out to you and offering further discussions. We'll also keep on feeding information through our website and our LinkedIn page, which I do recommend you follow our LinkedIn page because there's a lot of useful security info that goes up there. And we'll include the link to that in our follow-up email, which you will receive later this afternoon. Now, as we said earlier, the Essential 8 isn't the be and end all of IT security. There's plenty of other things you should be doing. And a couple in particular are some type of email phishing protection, and also security awareness training to raise your users' knowledge of the type of scams that are out there so they don't get fooled by them. Okay, so we'll have a real quick recap just to finish up. So the Essential 8 are guideline strategies to stop cybersecurity attacks. These guidelines are set by the ACSC, who are the government's cybersecurity department. You need the Essential 8 to protect yourself against cybersecurity attacks, which are real, they're frequent, and they're very costly to recover from in most cases. We think it's a must that every business should implement the Essential 8, and we will be in touch to guide you through your journey. Either myself or your account manager will reach out to you over the next week. And that's it. If you have asked any questions in the Q&A, you will hear back from us later today. We would like to thank you for spending the time to listening to the recommendations from the Australian Cybersecurity Centre and also the alltasksIT team. Once again, thank you, and you'll hear from us soon.